So hey y'all, I'm back with another video. So tonight's video is yet again another Chioma Chats video podcast edition. So by the title, we're going to be talking about how Instagram baddies have begun to retreat from the same sexual imagery that has pushed and publicized them over the years. Recently, I've seen influencers and public figures like Alexis, Skyy, Brittany, Renner, Olivia Song, who is a makeup artist, and even Blacc, Chyna, who is a seasoned celebrity, take to their social media to kind of denounce some of the imagery that they've been a part of over the years. One thing these ladies have in common at the moment is their switch and life alteration within their portrayal and their beliefs. I've said it 1,000 times that this imagery would eventually become played out and tired, or some people would just move on because it doesn't satisfy them. I do think overt sexualism has and will always remain a thing. So it's not necessarily the fact that women are sexualizing themselves, it's the fact that it's over the top, it's super explicit, it's rated R, and it's just so normalized. I just think there's a time and place for everything, and social media to me is not the place, but it has become the breeding ground for a lot of this stuff to be developed and put in the faces of everyone. So with some of the examples I've seen of social media personalities or celebrities or whatever starting to clean up their image, I have to wonder why. I have to wonder why something that has been the forefront of some of these people's perceptions, let alone a lucrative outlet for a lot of these women, why would they change? Or at least, why now? I have my reasons as to why I think it is. However, what I've obtained from each and every one of these ladies is that there is some type of insufficiency in their lives. And it's probably different for all of them, but the common denominator is that something that they desire so much is lacking, and they think it may be because of this imagery. Whether they feel they are lacking respect, whether they feel they are lacking positive perception, whether they feel they are lacking a certain life experience, something is insufficient. I assume that they think they can recuperate what they may be lacking by altering the sexual and social approach that they've been a part of. I personally find this to be so interesting because I told y'all this would happen eventually, but I also think it is very telling and very much resonates with a lot of young women these days. So I've broken this video down into one overall main talking point. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. So my one and overall point is forgotten. And yes, I'm being silly, but I do think that some of these ladies are trying to forget about what they put out there. And I'm not mad at them. The reason I'm not mad is because I think that growth and grace is needed in a woman's life. And I feel like at some point in your mid-20s or your late 20s or even your early 30s, you do go through some type of mental reevaluation or revelation. People don't talk about this enough, but a lot of women really do have such a dynamic change at some point in their life. And I think a lot of it deals with how we view ourselves. There are so many factors that can lead to this, whether if you had a child, whether if you graduated college, whether you got older in age, or maybe even a traumatic situation happened to you. But sometime in your mid-20s or late 20s, you cross-check yourself and you reevaluate who you are. And it doesn't get talked about enough, but I think a lot of these women are actually representing that self-scrutiny that then results in a new you arising from the ashes of the phoenix. I don't necessarily think it's a question of whether pushing sexual imagery is bad or good or whatever. It's more of a personal walk with your mental that leads you to the point where you are questioning whether or not it's worth many other factors within your life. So starting with Brittany Renner, she has had such a polarizing rise as she's been so potent with blasting her sexual escapades and being intentional about the type of men that she went for. I still kind of like Brittany Renner because I like her honesty. I think she's very transparent, and I actually think she's also very well spoken. And she most definitely has been on this campaign about her body count being allegedly repulsive and the types of men that she surrounds herself with and how much she's been beating herself up about it. And I went in on her the last time that I talked about this, not because I disliked what she was saying, but more or less because I think part of it was disingenuous. I think she's definitely serious about how she feels about herself in regards to her sex life and dating life, but I feel like she's also a bit calculated because she knows what will get a rise out of people. She's almost like a personal scapegoat for conversations to bully and or chastise, or just for the general public to call her a hoe or a thought or a slut or whatever.
I hate how I allowed myself to just be like used up by men. And that came from a lack of self-worth. I did not understand my value that I was born with. I didn't. And I gave, again, people look at sex differently, but sex is spiritual unification. At the end of the day, I don't care how you spin it. It's spiritual.
For women.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
for
women.
Whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. For women, it's spiritual unification. And people that I shared my body with, when I think about my list, it's repulsive because they didn't deserve it. But that was an outcome of me discounting my worth. And it's disgusting. I hate even having that spiritual tie in any type of way. But yeah, I would absolutely change sexually how I move around. And not even necessarily because of like the societal outcome. It's more so from my self-worth.
Like, how it makes you like feel.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good knowing that you gave a sacred part of you to a man that looked at sex with you as taking a piss. It's not fulfilling. It's disgusting to think about. And I feel like I've beat myself up every single day for my decisions. And what people say about me online holds no candle to what I've told myself on a daily basis. Like, I've been called worse by better, and that better being me.
So some people noticed that some of the platforms that she was speaking on to express her personal disdain were platforms that intentionally antagonize women like her. And I do agree with that, but I still think that she is very much so aware of how much her perception is skewed based off of what she's put out there. I have to read her book because I do enjoy getting the juicy content from people who decide to tell it all. So I'll let y'all know how her book is whenever I do read it. But in that book, she most definitely blasts herself and makes herself be seen as no more than a sexual arm candy to industry men. And I think what has happened is that for her in particular, she feels insufficient in the area of respect. And this is a side effect of when your body is your business. People take advantage of how free and willing one may be to show themselves scantily dressed or talk about sexual topics. And I have a hard time picking a side on how I feel about this because on one hand, I agree that if you do put out that narrative, people have every right to judge you for it as is. And it will most definitely be negative. But then on the other side, I feel like if your body is your business, whether you do OnlyFans or you're an exotic dancer or anything around that, there should be a respect factor for those who work in that business that people often disregard. For Brittany Renner, she doesn't necessarily fit into the sex worker category, and I think that because she's technically an athlete baby mama that has social media clout and has used sexual imagery to increase herself on the social ladder, that's why people don't want to give her respect or sympathy. I also feel like she's been fully aware of a lot of things that she's been putting out, but either has been gassed up by the internet and her pretty/light-skin privilege, or the fact that at some point she probably really just didn't care, so she continued until she got to this point. I'm interested to see how Brittany Renner transitions and if it's genuine, but I think her repentance comes from not feeling respected by men and also not getting the happily ever after that she thought she would be awarded based off of her looks and her sexual exploitation. Now let's move on to somebody that has actually been in the sex worker industry. So Blacc Chyna. I really do like Blacc Chyna. I think she has a lot of controversy around her, and there's many things that I definitely disagree with when it comes to her choices in business and in her life, but overall, she is an OG. She's honest, she's also very well spoken, and she just gives off a very likable energy. So recently she was featured on Jason Lee's podcast show in which she did speak on a lot of different things. But one thing I definitely took away from the snippets that I saw was her altering her sexual perception. So again, we have somebody who is distancing themselves from the same imagery that made them who they are. Now, Blacc Chyna actually started off as an exotic dancer. She was a real life stripper, and we all know the story about how her and the rapper Tyga met in the club. They started dating, they had a child, it ended very dramatically, and now we're here.
Probably not, and that's another reason why I wanted to, step out of some of the things that I was doing. Because, at a certain age, they see and gravitate to everything.
Like what?
Like, for example, I don't do OnlyFans anymore.
At all?
I don't do it anymore at all.
With all the money you were making?
Yes.
You just shut it down?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because I'm just changing everything about me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's a dead end. All that stuff is a dead end, and I know that I'm worth way more than that.
But why not just change up the content? Like, you have a beautiful body. You don't have to, OnlyFans nowadays, you don't have to really bust it open. You can go do a whole show with OnlyFans. You know that. You can create a show.
Right. I did.
She's like, you're telling me what I already did. Thank you.
No, yeah, I feel like I have other things, bigger fish to fry. Mm-hmm. And then at the time I had so many things and lawsuits and this and that. It's like, whoa. But yeah, I'm good. Shout out to the people that do still have their OnlyFans and stuff like that. Get your money, don't let the money make you.
Now, she actually completely stopped doing OnlyFans. And OnlyFans has been one thing that I think has aggravated and exponentially grew sexual exploitation and hoe culture. And I've already made videos basically saying that I don't think OnlyFans makes you a hoe, but I think the imagery of what hoe culture is, or thought culture, or just being a part of the sex worker industry, and how a lot of it can be interchangeable with those terms, to many people, it is one and the same. So Blacc Chyna doesn't do OnlyFans anymore, and this was something that was bringing her millions millions of dollars a month. I've never seen her content. I'm not sure exactly what she posted on there, but I'm inclined to believe that, knowing her background and what she has promoted over the years, it was something dealing with expressing herself sexually. And she says that she stopped doing this because her kids are getting older, and I'm assuming she wants to be a better role model in that regard. She's also been documenting her journey with removing her fillers from her face and lips, removing her butt shots, and basically transforming herself into a more subtle grown woman. So here, the insufficiency is her not feeling like her kids should follow in her footsteps, or that her kids are at an age where they understand what she does to make money, and it does affect them. Oftentimes, we never want to talk about how for the women who actually do participate in some type of sex work, their kids can sometimes be targets of ridicule because of their mother's actions. And there's so many mothers that defend being a sex worker and being able to take care of their kids and be a good mother. And I think that's fine. I don't think being a stripper makes you a bad mother. That would be aggressive for me to say. But I do think there are side effects to it, such as your children either following in your footsteps because you've normalized that sexual expression is a viable way to make money, or that your kids are scrutinized for having a mom who has to sell sex to make it by. Like when I see Sukihana, I just pray for her kids. She recently posted a full-blown picture of her pretty pink pulsing, piping hot, punishing, put it on a pedestal pussy, and that image is going to be forever on the internet. Her kids are going to see that one day. It's sad. So in Blacc Chyna's case, like I said, her insufficiency that she's considering is how good of a role model she'll be to her children, and probably her daughter most importantly. And I think that's a good concern to have because, like I said, growth and grace. When it comes to something like this, it is necessary on a personal standpoint because there are so many side effects to exploiting yourself sexually.
Curvy size, now call me a Slim Shady. With the cheese on point, niggas gonna chase me.